I'm Tim Kittro, and here to bring home the bacon are Big Ryan the Fat Guy.
What's up, YouTube? It's it's Big Rye coming at you with the NFL, a betting market preview for Week 7. We're going to skip over Thursday's Giants game. They were able to cover, but they weren't able to win. I was talking about it with the Fat Guy because I was watching the live lines. I'm trying to get better with the live lines, guys, to understand how the lines moves with different scores and where the ball's placed and down and distance. And interesting to note that the Philadelphia Eagles on Pinnacle were plus 2,000 at one point to come back in that game. I think it was like 5 minutes left. They were down 11. I was so close to jump on it. I missed it. It got bet down to 9-1 like almost instantly. And obviously it's easy to say now that would have been a nice play, but I just found it super interesting. So that's the only thing I really got to say about that Thursday game. At closing, there wasn't too much value, so I actually didn't bet the Giants. But the Fat Guy and I will take any wins we can get this year as far as the pick contest is concerned. So the Giants was a nice cover, even though they weren't able to pull out the full upset on Thursday night. All right, on to the Sunday games. We'll start with the Green Bay Packers. They're 3.5-point favorites on the road. 69% of bettors are on the Packers. They opened at -3. They've been bet up to 3.5, as well as more money's been put. I think it's, you guys can double check the math, but I think it's 97% of the dollars wagers have been put on the Packers. So other than it being 69% of the bets, every other market factor is pushing towards people taking the Packers, and the books are kind of in trouble. I could definitely see this line moving further than 3.5. I could see it moving to 4, maybe 4.5 by close. But I wouldn't recommend making any plays on this game. I think people have already jumped all over it, and there's not going to be much value going forward. So I would just leave this game alone. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys are -1-point favorites on the road. 63% of early bettors are on the Cowboys. 67% of the dollars wagers are on the Cowboys. I know this line opened at 2, so the betting line has been bet towards Washington. But this is another game I would leave alone. 63% of bettors, or at least I would leave alone for Dallas. 63% of bettors on Dallas, so just leave this game. Next up, Detroit plus 2.5 on the road. 49% of bettors are on Detroit. They opened as 3-point underdogs, so they've been bet down to 2.5. Again, guys, anytime it's less than 3, just take the money line. 2.5 and under, just take the money line. But this is a game that I'm not going to be betting. Detroit is playing Atlanta in Atlanta. Again, this is going to be a 50-50 split. I would just leave this game alone. Next up, Buffalo, 11-point favorites. 59% of bettors are on Buffalo. They're taking on the lowly Jets. Again, 60% of bettors on Buffalo. I would just leave this game. Next up, Carolina. They're 7-point underdogs. They opened at plus 7.5. 29% more dollars bet on the Panthers than the 52% bet percentage. I would lean towards Carolina in this, but because it's 52% of bettors on Carolina at the moment, I would just leave this game alone. It would have been tremendous value to get them at plus 7.5. So kudos to you if you got the Panthers at plus 7.5. But heading towards the closing line tomorrow on Sunday, I would just leave this game alone if this is how the market stays. Next up, the Cleveland Browns are 3-point favorites in Cincinnati. 62% of early bettors are on the Browns. This is a game I would just leave alone. 62% is too many people for me. I'm always looking for close to 30% or less. There's certain cases where I might jump that up to like 35, 36, 37, but as you can see for these away games, there's not even one that hits that 40% mark. So we're going to have to wait till we get to the home side to see real value. Pittsburgh plus 1.5, 58% of bettors are on the Steelers. This is another game or another team I would leave alone. Tampa Bay -4, 63% of bettors are on Tampa. They opened at 3. They've been bet up to 4. That probably has to do with the Raiders offensive line fiasco, I guess you could say. They haven't been able to practice the last few days. and I believe Trent Brown isn't going to be playing. They're predicting that the rest of the offensive line is going to be there, so that's good news for the Raiders. I know this line was taken off for quite a bit. It looks like it's back now at that 4-point favorite spread. So it's only gone up from 3 to 4 for Tampa with those scares. So it kind of gives you a good indicator of how that affected the market, only by 1 point. From 3 to 4, it's about a 2% gap. So 2% better winning percentage chance for Tampa Bay with that line movement from 3 to 4. But because 63% of bettors are on Tampa, I'm going to leave them alone. Next up, Kansas City, minus 7.5. 55% of bettors are on the Chiefs. That's too much percentage for me, bet percentage-wise, so I'm going to leave the Chiefs. San Fran, plus 2.5. 48% of bettors are on San Fran. They opened as 3.5-point underdogs, and they've been bet down to 2.5. So Sharps managed to push that over that key number of 3. But because there's 48% of bettors on San Fran, I'm not going to be touching San Fran as far as a market play. The final midday game, Jacksonville, plus 7.5. 46% of bettors are on Jacksonville. Only 680 bets so far for this game, so this is going to be one of the lower games. A lower game tends to have, I'd say, about 5,000 bets. So even if they did have strong market factors for this game, I would be hesitant to jump on it just because the lower volume of bets on this game. Whereas if you look at the Thursday night game, those primetime games, they can get up to 25, 30,000. So they have much, much stronger market plays on those primetime games. Even the midday games have more. So Jacksonville, it's actually quite surprising that they're so low. It's most likely because they're playing the Chargers. So neither team is quite popular, so a lot of people aren't going to be watching that game. They're not interested in betting that game. The real pros will be interested in betting that game, so that's what that 680 number is. But you can definitely see the difference in the next game, which is Seattle, Arizona. They've already got over 2,000 bets early on, and that's going to be similar to that Thursday game. We're going to get 20 to 25,000 bets on this Seattle, Arizona game. Seattle's 3.5-point favorites on the road. 64% of early bettors on Seattle. They opened as 3-point favorites. They've been bet up to 3.5, and they've got 84% of the money wagered on Seattle at the moment. So sharps are on Seattle. But for me, I'm going to stay away from this game because Seattle is 64%. Bet percentage, I'm always looking for that contrarian value. Like I said earlier, 30 to 35% or less for me. And then on Monday night, the Bears take on the Rams. The Bears are 6-point underdogs. 46% of bettors on the Bears. And to me, there's just no value on the Bears at the moment. So let's look at it from the home line perspective. We'll skip over Thursday, the Philly game. Houston plus 3.5, 31% of early bettors on Houston. I'm going to lay 1 unit on Houston. I know I did say that the sharps are all over the Packers. That line's moved from 3 to 3.5. 69% of bettors, 97% of the dollars wagered. But I still like Houston because of the 31%. Only 1 unit play because there's no line movement and the money percentage isn't greater than the bet percentage. As this comes to kickoff, I got a feeling there's going to be more money flowing in on Houston, even though I did say that line might go in favor of the Packers. So you might not want to jump on it now at 3.5. I'm going to wait till about 10 minutes before kickoff to double check what the line is and then make my decision if I want to do 1 unit on Houston. It might be more. I could be wrong. The line might move in the opposite direction of Houston. There might be a huge influx of money coming in on Houston. Only 1,600 bets on this game. This game is going to probably have about 10,000 bets. So really 85% of the market is still waiting to come in on the Texans. But if this is how it was at kickoff, I would be putting 1 unit on the Houston Texans at plus 3.5. And when I do say 1 unit, I'm talking about 1% of my bankroll on that Houston game. So that might be a bit different for you. If you got $100 in your bankroll, you put $1 on this game. If you have $1 million, you put whatever the math is. I'm terrible with this. 10,000, I guess it would be. Next up, Washington plus 1. 37% of bettors are on Washington. The line has moved in their favor. So like I said earlier, I'm looking for 30%, like sometimes 35%. I'm going to do something that's bad. I'm going to slap myself on the wrist here, but I just love Washington in this game. I'm going to stretch out and say, because of the 37%, because of the line movement, I'm going to actually put 2 units on Washington. I don't care about that 1 point. I'm going to take the money line. So for me, it's a 2%, 2% of your bankroll, 2-unit play on the Washington football team money line. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons, 2.5-point favorites, 51% of bettors, 53% of the dollars. The line has moved against them. Because of the 51%, I'm not taking that game. New York Jets plus 11, 41% of bettors are on the Jets. The line has moved in their favor. So they opened at 12.5-point underdogs. They're now down to 11-point underdogs. I don't care if that line comes down to 10.5, but anything 10 or lower, I probably leave this game alone. At 11 or 10.5, especially if the bet percentage comes down just a little bit, I'm going to be putting 2 units on the Jets. This is similar to that Washington game. But double-digit underdogs at home. I don't care how bad the Jets are. They're not as bad as you think. 41% of bettors are on the Jets. I got a feeling there's going to be a lot more money coming in on the Bills as kickoff comes. So this is looking like a 2-unit play for the Jets. But again, I'm going to wait till kickoff. If this is a 50-50 game, I'm just going to leave it alone. If those bet percentages come down from 41 down to 35 or so, I'm easily going to jump on the Jets as a 2-unit play. And it might be even a 3-unit play if a lot of money comes down on the Jets and that line stays the same or comes down to 10.5. So Jets, as of this moment, I would be hesitant, but because of there isn't a lot of action this week, I might jump on the Jets at 2 units, but I would really be stretching myself to do that. Next up, the New Orleans Saints, 7-point favorites at home, 48% of bettors. No positive line movement, no money percentage. So they're playing Carolina. Carolina's actually had the line movement and more money bet on them. So I would stay away from the Saints for sure. I would be leaning towards Carolina as a pick. But as a bet, neither side is super strong, so I'm just going to pass. Next up, Cincinnati. They're 3-point underdogs at home to the Cleveland Browns. 38% of bettors are on Cincy. The line has moved from 3.5 to 3 for them, as well as 52% of the dollars have been wagered on the Bengals. So for Cincinnati, if those bet percentages come down a bit, this would be a 3-unit play. So 38% is like right on the cusp. It's kind of like the Jets game at 41%. It's just like the Washington game, which is at 37%. But the line has moved in their favor. There's more money put on it, so it's a fairly strong market play for Cincinnati. They do have less bet percentage, but again, I'm looking for it to be closer to 35-30. I'm not going to kill myself over this, but this is possibly a Bengals 3-unit play as of now. It's a little bit of a stretch, but the Bengals just have a lot of market factors going in their favor for this game. The Tennessee Titans are 1.5-point favorites. 42% of bettors are on the Titans early. That line has moved by 3 points. So Tennessee actually opened up as 1.5-point underdogs, and they've been bet up to 1.5-point favorites. So that's about a 6% win percentage swing for Tennessee. So it just shows you if you can get, if this is the best example of the week so far. I shouldn't say that, but this is one that sticks out to me. Whereas if you could get Tennessee at plus 1.5 or the Tennessee money line price when they were plus 1.5, so that would have been probably about plus 120, 125. Compared to now where you could get Pittsburgh at plus 120, plus 125, it would be a nice middling play, you could say. But this is where the true value comes in when you do bet these markets, is looking for those early lines, predicting where the line's going to move. And I'm telling you guys, it's one of the most difficult things to do. And it is the most difficult thing to do when betting on sports. So I think I'm going to focus more towards on those line movements and how to get on them, because this is still a learning process for all of us. And the game doesn't change. So these are constantly changing by the sports books and how they set their lines. But looking at this week with the 3-point line movement, 6% win percentage change. Like, that's the difference between having a Tennessee money line at a 47% chance to win at that plus 120 mark, and getting it as a 53% chance win at that plus 120 mark. It adds 6% expected value. So you want to be finding those opportunities. That's really where you're going to be successful and be positive as far as making money betting sports over the long term. So really our focus should be on live movements and where they're going to go. And I know the Fat Guy and I, when we put out those early predictions at the start of the week, a lot of what we're doing is just trying to predict where the line is going to move. So if you could get on Tennessee early at plus 1.5, tremendous value on Tennessee. As of now, it again is one of those borderline games. It's the same as the Jets, where they've got less bet percentage. The line's moved in their favor. A ton of money has been put on Tennessee compared to the Steelers. So I'm going to be watching this market. I'm going to be watching Tennessee as this game comes to close. This is going to be a more heavily bet game for this morning. Probably the heaviest bet game, if I had to guess. I'd expect like 12,000, maybe 13,000 bets on this game. So still 80% of this market still has to come in. But I do like the Titans. As of now, like if that bet percentage comes down just a little bit, it would be a 3-unit play on Tennessee. But just follow that market and see where it goes. Anything... You did lose some value, though, because that line has moved in Tennessee's favor. But anything 2.5 and below, you still have that value. At Tennessee at 3, you're starting to lose that value. And if that's the case, it's a nice middling play if you had the Tennessee money line early and you can get the Steelers at plus 3 later on. But as of now, I'm just going to wait to see what happens with that line as we move to kickoff. Okay, on to the afternoon games. Raiders plus 4, 37% of bettors are on the Raiders. I'd be hesitant as of now, but if that bet percentage comes down just a little bit, I'd probably put 1 unit on the Raiders. Next up, Denver Broncos plus 7.5. 45% of bettors are on the Broncos. They've been bet down from 9 to 7.5, and there is 58% of the dollars wagered on the Broncos. So 13% more than that 45% bet percentage that they have right now. Because of the line movement, because where the line is now, there actually is some value on Denver. I probably wouldn't bet this, or maybe I'd do 1 unit just because I'm not a huge fan of that 45-55 split. But because of the line movement, because where the money is, because they're playing the Chiefs, and because they're playing in Denver, which still has a little bit of home field advantage, one of the rare teams that actually does have that home field advantage, I'd be leaning towards Denver. I'm going to be watching this market as kickoff comes. It's one of the later games, so you can actually wait until all the early games are finished before you take a look at this Denver market. So just always remember to check the market about 10 minutes before kickoff. So get your look at the Raiders game, get your bet in, and then start focusing on that Denver Broncos game, which is at 4:25 Eastern time. Next up, the New England Patriots, 2.5-point favorites, 52% of bettors, 55% of the dollars wagered. There's just no value in taking the Pats as of now. Chargers minus 7.5, 54% of bettors. No line movement for them. No positive money percentage greater than the bet percentage. Again, just leave this game alone. Sunday night football, Arizona Cardinals 3.5-point underdogs at 36%. I'm thinking about Arizona at 1 unit, but like I said earlier, Seattle has had the positive line movement from 3 to 3.5, as well as 84% of the dollars wagered. So I'd be hesitant to jump on Arizona, but if that bet percentage gets any lower than that 36, I would be thinking about 1 unit on the Arizona Cardinals. And to finish off, Monday Night Football, Chicago Bears at the LA Rams. The Rams have 54% of bettors. They opened at 5.5. They've been bet up to 6, and 59% of the dollars wagered are on the Rams. So I'd be leaning toward the Rams as far as a pick's concerned. But as a betting concern right now, there is no value to me to bet the Rams. If this percentage was to come down a little bit, I would consider 1 unit on the Rams, but very unlikely. 54% of bettors. We're going to get 20,000 bets on this game, so something crazy might happen before kickoff. I highly doubt it, though, so I'm probably going to leave this Bears-Rams game alone, but it would be a 5-star entertainment game to watch. You guys enjoy Week 7. Hopefully this helps you out a bit. Not a ton of home runs this week, but definitely some markets that are in flux and could provide potential value at kickoff. So just make sure you guys are following along with the market. Get the price, get the best price you can, get the best opportunities you can. I'll be checking this market out as of kickoff. Good luck in Week 7.